Let us now move to another very important learning model from the exam perspective, known as Dale's cone of experience. This model was developed by Edgar Dale in 1946 and later revised in 1954 and again in 1969. You may also hear it referred to as the cone of learning or the cone of experience. Dale designed this model to explain how learners experience information through different instructional media, focusing mainly on the concreteness and abstractness of learning experiences rather than on intelligence or ability. At its core, Dale's cone of experience classifies learning experiences based on how direct or indirect they are. It gives special importance to audiovisual media, especially motion pictures, which Dale closely analyzed for their educational value. The cone was intended to help teachers understand how different teaching methods support learning, not to prescribe rigid rules. One of its major aims was to illustrate how people tend to retain information better when learning becomes more experiential and participatory rather than passive. However, it is very important to clarify a common misunderstanding. Dale's cone is often misinterpreted as an exact memory retention scale, assigning fixed percentages to learning methods. Dale himself never claimed that the cone represented precise retention rates. Still, from an exam point of view, learners are expected to be familiar with the commonly cited retention figures associated with the cone, so you should remember them carefully. According to this interpretation, learners tend to remember about 10% of what they read, which represents the most abstract form of learning. Retention increases to around 20% of what they hear, such as listening to audio or watching audiovisual material. When learners see a demonstration, retention improves further to about 30%. Learning becomes more effective when learners both see and hear information, such as during group discussions, where retention rises to approximately 50%. As learning shifts toward active involvement, retention increases significantly. Learners tend to remember about 70% of what they say and write, especially when they practice what they have learned. The highest level of retention, nearly 90%, occurs when learners say and do, for example, when they teach someone else or apply knowledge immediately. This progression clearly suggests that active, experiential learning leads to deeper understanding and longer retention. In summary, Dale's cone of experience emphasizes that learning is most effective when students move from passive observation to active participation. From an exam perspective, remember that the cone highlights levels of experience, not guaranteed memory percentages, and it strongly supports teaching methods that involve doing, practicing, and teaching others rather than just reading or listening. Let us now move to another extremely important learner-centered theory, Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, which is frequently referenced in teaching aptitude examinations. Howard Gardner, born in 1943, is an American cognitive psychologist and author best known for challenging the traditional idea of intelligence as a single, fixed ability. Gardner proposed that intelligence is not one general capacity but is instead divided into specific modalities, meaning individuals possess different kinds of intelligences in varying degrees. He introduced this idea in his influential book, Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences, published in 1983. Gardner's theory suggests that most educational systems focus heavily on linguistic intelligence, often neglecting other forms of intelligence that learners may possess. While the theory has been criticized by mainstream psychology for lacking strong empirical evidence, it has had a profound impact on educational practice by encouraging teachers to recognize and nurture diverse cognitive strengths. Gardner emphasized that intelligence should be understood as a biopsychological potential that can be developed. To qualify as an intelligence, Gardner proposed 8 specific criteria, including the potential for brain isolation due to damage, evolutionary relevance, the presence of core operations, symbolic expression, a distinct developmental pattern, the existence of savants or prodigies, and support from experimental psychology and psychometric findings. Originally, Gardner identified 7 intelligences, and later added an eighth. The first is linguistic intelligence, which involves the ability to speak, read, write, and understand language effectively. Individuals strong in this intelligence excel at storytelling, memorization, and verbal expression. And this ability is often measured by traditional IQ tests such as the WAIS. Writers, journalists, publishers, and reviewers typically show high linguistic intelligence. Closely related but distinct is musical intelligence, which involves sensitivity to rhythm, pitch, tone, and sound. Individuals with this intelligence can sing, play instruments, compose music, and often demonstrate exceptional auditory skills, sometimes even perfect pitch. Next is logical mathematical intelligence, which involves reasoning, numerical ability, and problem solving. This intelligence is closely linked to fluid intelligence and general intelligence, and it enables individuals to understand causal relationships and abstract principles. Scientists, software developers, investigators, and mathematicians often demonstrate high logical mathematical intelligence. Moving further, visual spatial intelligence involves the ability to visualize, manipulate images mentally, and understand spatial relationships. This intelligence supports skills such as drawing, photography, three-dimensional modeling, and is commonly seen in fields like architecture, design, and mass media. Another important category is bodily kinesthetic intelligence, which refers to control over body movements and skilled handling of objects. Individuals with this intelligence demonstrate precision, timing, and goal-directed physical actions, and often excel in sports, dance, acting, or craftsmanship. Professions such as athletes, dancers, actors, builders, soldiers, police officers, and even musicians frequently rely on this intelligence. Interpersonal intelligence focuses on understanding others, their emotions, motivations, and moods. Learners strong in this intelligence are effective communicators, empathetic, and comfortable working in groups. They often succeed as teachers, leaders, counselors, politicians, managers, and social workers. In contrast, intrapersonal intelligence involves deep self-awareness, introspection, and understanding one's own emotions, strengths, and limitations. Individuals with strong intrapersonal intelligence are often independent, intuitive, creative, and self-motivated. Finally, Gardner introduced naturalistic intelligence in the mid-1990s, which involves recognizing and classifying elements of the natural world. This intelligence is evident in individuals who work closely with nature, such as farmers, biologists, environmentalists, and those involved in conservation. It reflects sensitivity to flora, fauna, and ecological patterns.